This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, so you're muted, so if you're saying something, I can't hear you. But
Sorry, I was just pouring a cup of tea. Important things if
all
you're
right.
British and not
How
to be
British of you?
interrupted, so apologies indeed. I do like to
I
live
could
up to that
never.
particular stereotype.
I could never live in the UK. I actually hate tea.
Well, I hate coffee. I wish I liked it because I love the smell, but I just hate the taste. So
There you go. Yeah, I drink tea when I'm sick. It's like medicine.
Okay.
Okay, well, so we'll see how many people join. We've had really pathetic attendance in the last few weeks, and I think it's well, it's for reasons that you and I discussed. We need to
Sure.
debug something, maybe shovel more people this way, or maybe have more interesting topics. But and I will tell you what was happening. So we had a couple of volunteers. You have to check the meeting minutes for people to take a closer look at inferencing. And I think Anjuna has a particular interest in that because Anjuna has is offering some confidential AI solutions. So hey, they're in the space. But I think inferencing governance is very interesting because of SAS, right? So we should take a look at the various actors and their interests. Because, like, I mean, a lot of the governance, the way we've been doing it is really sort of thinly veiled threat modeling. You should think about it, because you are trying to figure out how to avoid mistakes that would negate the promises of confidential compute, and which is different than the way a lot of governance is thought about out there in the world, which is a collection of checkboxes and vague statements. Right. So okay. So what I'm for inferencing, I think one of the more interesting aspects, probably not the only one, is SAS, right? So in some cases, we simply do not trust an outside party with our data, right? So the data may have to do with this is how we can figure our services, or here are some requests that are going through our firewall, and we're looking for signs of attack or compromise. And if that information goes into the wrong hands, well, that's a problem. And how can we? And like the thing is, if a SaaS vendor loses our data, it's us on the hook, right? And we're bigger than our vendors.
Yeah, and good luck with
right.
getting them to
So
admit liability.
so that's in one direction. So if they host the model, then we have some questions of them as to how do you protect our data during inferencing. Or we can say, no, we really don't trust you to run even your own model securely. Why don't you put your model into our environment where we can properly secure it and be responsible for it? Well, then they come up with a bunch of questions. They say, how do we know that we're actually getting paid for usage? That's a reasonable question, right? So we need to be able to provide, it's not like we're going to cheat, but at the same time, trust but verify. And on the other hand, they're like, how do you know that you're not going to steal our model weights? That's an asset. So, right. So confidential computing can help with all of this, but you need to, like at work, I'm doing these like architectural katas. I don't know if you've heard of the term, but it's effectively it's a structured exercise for for architects to exercise their skills. And this is a fantastic example. So so I'm looking to, this is where I would like the sort of the confidential community to come together and basically figure out this is how we're going to train and confidential, how we're going to inference confidentially, take a look at the interests of various parties, document our findings, recommend some best practices, and again, get ahead of any regulations and sort of have one say as a community as to this is what it's going to look like. So that I'm hoping to do that, but I won't. That's not a piece of work I want to do on my own. I mean, I can, but I don't know if I trust.
Yeah,
myself.
I think that it's worth putting out some stuff on some of the other mailing lists, internal mailing lists, rather than just GRC, to see if people are interested in that as a piece of work, because they may not be aware. So, for instance, I know that Super Protocol do some stuff in this area. I'm sure they're not the only ones as well. So,
Yeah.
raising it in other places and saying, look, who else is interested in this? Are you doing similar work? Are there intersections that we can pull together?
Yeah.
It's probably
Well, can I ask you to see if what parties you can pull into that conversation? Just bring them to the table, and then I can take over.
I can certainly look at ones I know about, but I think that putting something in putting something on the mailing list is also worth doing. On a different topic, what I remember on TWI, I was in a call, a Linux Foundation leadership call yesterday, and agentic AI came up, and folks asked me to send them information about the work we're doing there. So I'm going to be forwarding that along so that they're aware of that, which is useful.
Speaking of that, specifically agentic AI.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a little rant / brain dump on that. So we've experienced a number of organizations that are using this as a way to sell products because they want to convince the world that this is a thoroughly different beast that requires their particular solution to deal with it.
Of course.
All right. So, this is the Kibono type of thing. We have to ask, is this legitimately a different beast, or is it something that we can address using, like reusing existing knowledge and mechanisms? And that's where a road, like there's a fork in the road. On one hand, you see people saying, look, non-human identities are not human identities. And this is an agent is just another piece of software. And, we can deal with it using means that we've always dealt with, and just like, let's not invent a problem where there is none. So that's one sort of view.
Approach.
Another approach is something that I've been skeptical of. And then there is a paper came out that kind of put some cracks in my skepticism. That's a paper from CSA from August 19th that on agentic AI. I don't mind forwarding it to you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I should pull up my email and just do this before I forget. And that one actually reminded me of an interesting history lesson. So just before World War II, Russian military had some stalwarts, some leftovers from the good old days of the Russian Civil War and the First World War, that whose opinion of warfare was very much driven by what they know, right?
Yeah.
They understood certain military tactics. These folks were very fond of cavalry, right? And they wanted to basically, raise a bunch of horses, put a bunch of people on horseback and like charge. Except on the other hand, on the other side, you saw tanks and airplanes, right? So that wouldn't have worked. So it may be that the new technology requires a fundamentally rethinking of the approaches that we have, recognizing their difficulties, their weaknesses, and coming up with something that's a legitimate, like thorough innovation. There is very little in other than the fact that in both cases that some metal is used and some human DNA is used. There is very little in common between cavalry and tank warfare. Right. So that paper advocates for a fairly thorough revamp of the infrastructure. So it uses a combination of several technologies at once. So it uses decentralized identity, so distributed ledgers. It uses verifiable credentials. It uses zero-knowledge proofs, and it uses a new what's called agent naming service. So like not a domain naming service, but an agent naming service. Something that allows one to discover agents and runtime. And they have some SDK. This is not just paperware. They have some SDKs, some open source stuff you can download and play with. Right. So, and the paper has the backing of Microsoft. It's from Cloud Security Alliance. Again, I can't really talk and email at the same time, so I will email it to you. But you can also find it called like Agentic AI New Approach, whatever, PDF. So we should take a look from TWI perspective and see what of the things that we've just been discovering or doing so far, how it fits. Like the core premise of TWI, where you can either generate a key and certify it, or you can obtain a key contingent on remote attestation, and then whatever credential you get, you can use that. You can use that with VCs. You can do it with DIDs. There is nothing inherently different there, but it would be nice to at least draw it once and make sure that it still works. But I think that those architectural building blocks are solid.
Let me give some thoughts from my point of view, and I'm not sure either, honestly, which side I come down on this. But there is, I expressed some thoughts at a conference a year or so ago on AI generally, which is specifically at cyber defense against AI threats, I think, if I'm right. And you could say that it's you could possibly relate this to the tanks and the cavalry thing, in fact, which is that when you get to a certain tipping point of asymmetry, things look fundamentally different. So when things are so much faster or bigger or quicker or whatever, the way you think about things has to change. So there's nothing particularly different about trying to get human beings from one side of a field to another, whether they're on tanks or on horses, apart from the fact that you've got a lot more things flying a lot faster and doing a lot more damage if we've got machine guns than you did before, which means that there's an asymmetry, which means you have the game has changed. You can say the same about trading, right? About machine trading, and that there's nothing different. Things are just selling and buying things. But because things are happening so fast, there is an asymmetry which allows new types of trading to happen because partly of that asymmetry.
Right.
And so so much of the stuff we're talking about agentic AI feels like stuff we were doing in the 90s with Corba, setting up marketplaces and APIs and stuff and all these sorts of things, except that it's so much faster, they're so much quicker, things are so much cheaper. And I think that there probably are tipping points. I'm not sure I know what those tipping points look like yet. And I'm certainly interested in consuming thoughts from people about what those tipping points might look like. what the tipping points lead us to if seeing them as well.
Yeah.
Does that make some sense?
Well, yeah. So I think it comes down to architectural layering. So I think when I talk about primitives such as I generate a credential and certify it, like by contacting some service to get a credential around it, I don't think that primitive is going anywhere. When I say a workload can start be given a credential, but require remote attestation in order to retrieve a key to use it, that's a primitive that's not going anywhere regardless. You may find that there are variations on the theme. So if there's serverless and this workload stands up for several seconds and goes away, each one of those workload instances is not going to touch the verifier, right? So
It's
you
not
have
going
to
to what?
use.
Can you say it again?
If you have a serverless, like sort of Lambda or step function that starts, runs for several seconds, and then goes away, that type of workload is not going to touch verifier every time it runs. So you need some kind of caching, right? So that's like a sealing operation, something sealing to this platform, being able to cache something locally, retrieve it securely. But I mean, those primitives exist. So that's really, right? So, but then on top of that, so it may be that the next architectural building block up there, OAuth, doesn't work. Like the permissions are too coarse-grained. You don't really have, ways of revoking credentials, or you don't really have, proper delegation set. Like you don't have voting. There's a bunch.
This is one of my key things, that you don't have a good enough understanding of how to define contexts for action.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on. So that's just another example. But yeah, carry on.
So, what I was going to say there is still that, yes, I agree with you. Things will, agents, I'm coming to the realization that agents are not the same as your regular container. They're not predictable. Give me this input, I'm going to always give you this output type of thing. There's a lot of context involved. It may decide to invoke other agents. It may come up with novel ways of doing things. Like the example I used in the talk I gave recently was, I want to schedule a meeting with an outside party. My agent may decide to do a little bit of snooping and discover if this person, like literally this morning, I set up a meeting with someone I don't know very well. And, my agent may discover for me, without having to ask, what time zone is this person in? Is this a morning person? Right? And then it may, I may not have thought of such a thing. And then the question then becomes, well, how do I allow it to do that sort of thing, but not allow it to stock trade for me? Because in one case, the action is related to what I'm doing. In the other, or what I'm asking the agent to do. In the other case, it would be a wild violation of trust.
But there's also a thing in the other direction, where how do I say it's appropriate to find out if it's a morning person? It's not appropriate to find out if their child has chemotherapy scheduled that particular morning.
Well, yeah, that's the zero knowledge proof, right? As in, like, this time is not available. I'm not going to tell you why, which is fine.
Well, no, but if you say find out what a good time is for someone, they could delve deeply into all of the things that is visible about that person online anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Because you give an AI enough scope, and it'll turn the world into a paperclip making machine, right? The standard example. What is an appropriate level of finding out? It may be they're an afternoon person because they have an alcohol problem, and they don't do mornings, and that's inappropriate to find out, right? Find out whether they have an AA meeting the night before. I don't know, but you see what I mean? It's working out the context in which it's appropriate to make queries is going to become a problem as well if it has not done so already.
And there is a direct link to governance here too, like, because governance is really about establishing and following rules, communicating rules, understanding that the rules are well understood, and then being able to operationalize them. So I think this is why I think we should be having this discussion. But again, we're also trying to scope discussions down to what is specific to confidential computing, right? And then if it's not specific to confidential computing, which a lot of agentic AI is really not, because it needs to run on legacy workloads, whatever, then we simply need to participate in other forums and simply see if what we can do improves on what they will do otherwise.
Yeah, and I think that this TWI thing that I talked about and other stuff happening in the LF probably fits in that category. To see if we can act as a primitive, a set of building blocks that allow them to do stuff that they need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the other way of looking at things is that you could say, well, these things are not new. They're not containers, but they're people, right? Look at it from that direction. They are actually acting for people, and we know how people browse the web and look for time zones and then book calendar appointments, right?
Yeah.
It's just so you're looking at okay, they're not new. They're not new from the different direction. So is there something about the confluence, the combination of these of the human and the non-human in these ways that creates something new? And I don't know.
Well, and then there's a question of responsibility. So, if I go and put, punch keys on the keyboard and hack your account, okay, how is that different from me saying, downloading an agent and say, hey, agent, hack Mike's account on my behalf?
Oh yeah, 100%. But
so
then
I didn't
type.
I didn't author that payload. The agent did.
Yeah, you have the classic, a car knocking a self-driving car knocking down a pedestrian. Whose fault is that?
Well, in this case, there is actually, I'm saying this, there is, if it just went off the reservation, it's the manufacturer's fault. But if I actually directed it to go do something, then it's quite another.
But if the manufacturer left space which they hadn't considered could be used to go off reservation, and I didn't understand that my asking it to do something was going to do something which caused it to go off reservation, then whose fault is it? Again, and now we're getting into pod bay doors HAL territory. That we know what the mission is. Well, we thought we know what the mission was, but do we know what the mission is? So the whole definition is difficult. So I need to close this because I'm getting very hot. I've got a fire going.
That looks like a very cozy.
Oh, it is very cozy. It could get too cozy. That's the problem. If I don't close it down in time. So it's very nice. That's very good. Cool. Excellent. If you could send me that.
I did. You should check your email now.
I will. I will check it. These are conversations that I'd love to find fora in which to have them. And one place might be, there aren't many, the Linux Foundation members forum. So I think the call for papers may just have been, let me just have a quick look. Linux members, Linux Foundation. Foundation events and summits 2026. Right, there you go. Yeah, I'm not sure it's available yet. If it isn't, it's going to be the CFP is going to be available soon. I don't know who gets to be invited to that. I know Premier members are, but I don't know if general members are. But even if they're not, if you're interested in helping me put together a panel to talk about this stuff, you could. I'm sure you could get invited along because I think it's a good conversation to have, and I think we could find a couple of other interesting people to have it with.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Let's think about that. I'm going to make myself a little note Where have I put that? Here we go. Mark Novak. What do we call this? Plus panel. AI.
It may make sense. It may make sense to start with Linux Foundation because this is bigger than confidential computing. Like we can make parts of it
Absolutely,
better.
and it's a place there are interesting people doing interesting things there, and responsibility. I'm going to call it that for now. Agentic AI and responsibility. Because I think there's an interesting panel to be had there, and I think we could get some people, other people interested to do so. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? It doesn't look like anyone else is going to turn up. Should we call it here?
Well, I'm going to show you something since I already got you on the call.
Okay, go for it. You
So
know this is recorded, right?
Huh?
So, you know this is recorded, so just
yeah, this is recorded.
Yeah. Good.
This is why I try not to curse too much. So
well done.
All right, so let me show you. So there is another document we're working on right now. This is just FYI. There's nothing for you to, you know, unless you want to provide me some feedback. So this is reverse proxy governance. It's the same governance sort of pattern. It's a pattern for writing patterns. You start with the context. You explain. You know, you may find yourself in the following situation. Problem is, when in the situation, you will encounter certain, you know, problem space. And then the next one is we use roles as part of the problem, basically saying who is, you know, who are the different participants in this problem space and what assets are they protecting. I think this, I'm going to explain that this actually requires a rethink right now in the context of this particular pattern. Forces is what makes solving this problem difficult. And then the solution specifically, like you know, this suggests nothing other than make sure that whatever it is, you know, your solution is, addresses these, you know, complications. And then finally, the solution section is the one that, you know, basically says this is how you ensure that you don't have the problems after you administered the solution. And again, I'm not speaking to the content. This may be all have to be revised. But I did something that you know, it's very early draft. But what I did was I actually went and researched this a little bit. What are the different types of proxies? There are actually a remarkable number of different proxies. I don't keep them all in my head all the time. But apparently proxies happen at 4 different layers in the OSI stack.
Okay.
From 3 to 7, nothing at 6, but clearly, right? But you get IP proxies, you get TCP proxies, you get SOX proxies at level 5, and then you get application HTTP proxies and whatnot. And it turns out that you have, you know, all of them employed in various places doing various things. And I actually went and asked, you know, my colleagues and said, "Oh, what other proxies do I actually have at the bank?" And then I went and shrunk it down to, you know, a more presentable list. It was actually a much longer list. I took some duplication out. Look at this. Like you have Zoom direct routing, you have succession border controller proxies, VoIP proxies, you know, SMTP ingress and egress. You have this managed file transfer service. It's a quite a collection. So it looks like a big problem space to ensure that your data is protected in use, you know, across all of these, you know, devices. So just drawing attention to the fact that
Yeah, send that along as well if you wouldn't mind. Just drop me.
Yeah. This one I don't mind dropping in the chat. I don't need to email it.
Oh, please send me an email. Otherwise, I won't. I'll lose it. If it's in an email, there's a half a chance that I'll.
Okay.
Fair
enough. I'll do that now. So anyway, now what happens is how much data a proxy can protect really depends on the layer at which it operates. So, right, if you're looking at a you know, network layer, layer 3, then pretty much the only thing you protect is metadata and routing tables. right? So you're not really looking inside packet. Versus if you're looking at layer 7, well, TLS got terminated. You can literally see everything.
Yeah.
Right. But sort of having an ability to decide, at what level do I start caring? Maybe it's everywhere. Maybe it's just in these places. I think people need to understand how much proxies learn about you. In fact, I learned something. I haven't independently confirmed it, but if it's true, this is pretty disgusting. So we use Citrix for VDI, right? So I
Yeah.
work from home. I use my virtual desktop, whatever.
I used to work for Citrix, so I'm aware of how they work. Yep.
And I think maybe it's Zscaler. Now Zscaler, I heard, will actually train their AI models on the traffic that traverses their proxy, which to me is absolutely unconscionable. Like your job is to just intermediate content of your customer. If you are now telling me that you're going to train your models on our data and we're a regulated institution, I'm starting to have some questions. Right?
Those questions are entirely appropriate to ask, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's, again, this is where data and use protection can help, and then it's a kind of a flip side of confidential training. Like, how do I ensure that you don't train your model on my data?
Yeah, very, very much. Particularly as people are changing their terms and conditions under us all the time.
Yeah.
To do exactly.
So all of a sudden, like, somebody announces that this is our new usage model, and under which you, the customer, is now giving us all your stuff. I would imagine that this should be, have higher visibility than it apparently does.
I agree that it probably should than it.
All right, this is all I have for you today, sir. I think we're going to wrap up.
No, that's fun. Good chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to look into the CFP for the Linux Foundation because I think it would be a really good thing to have. It's in Napa in February, I think.
Yeah. Were you in the attestation SIG meeting yesterday?
No, I really struggle with those. I have clashed with them every time.
Right. Anyway, so it got recorded, and the entire meeting was spent about me repeating my IETF talk, but with more breathing room because we had a full hour. It actually ran over. So if you, I think you may find, I think you may find watching that recording interesting because it's ultimately, as I say, it's about increasing the total addressable market of confidential computing. Like if it's my assertion that if you don't do what this talk is proposing, you can continue on your merry way, except your target market will be an order of magnitude smaller than it can be. It's like a big difference.
Helpful. Thank you. I'll have a look. I try and catch up with them, but they don't always turn up quite as quickly as I'd like. So I will absolutely keep an eye out. Thank you. I've put something in my calendar for that. Cool. Have a good rest of day. I will catch you around soon.
All right. Sounds good. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.